So the current risks that we face and that policymakers are confronting is the Fed really needs to inject a lot of liquidity in the banking system, and they have been. They've been using all kinds of unusual measures. I was saying earlier this morning, the Fed's balance sheet looks like it has at no time in history. They normally just buy Treasury securities as an asset to hold against their liabilities of currency outstanding and member banks' deposits at the Fed. And now half of their balance sheet is in risky assets, commercial paper and other instruments that normally they just don't allow themselves to buy because they're messing in private markets. But the Fed is intent on restoring confidence in the banking system and liquidity in the banking system now, and they're willing to risk more inflation and an erosion of the value of the dollar later, and I think they're right to worry about that. This is kind of an all-hands-on-deck, let's not have a Great Depression policy, and I personally, although I'm a believer in free markets, totally support Bernanke's aggressive policy right now. Other policymakers are certainly getting busy, and we'll have a fiscal stimulus bill soon. How effective that will be, time will tell. What I hope to see out of that is more federal support for state budgets. A lot of states, including our own, are in a very difficult spot in terms of meeting the current obligations that we have, the current plans that we had to deliver services through the public sector. And I think it would be a mistake to have states do a bunch of budget cutting in areas that obviously the states had decided were worth funding, and then have the feds launch whole new initiatives that previously we hadn't decided we actually needed. Because the new initiative spending is not going to hit the economy very quickly. It's the nature of federal procurement processes. Whereas the state spending that we would pull out would hit the economy very quickly. So maintaining what we've got is probably a pretty good idea right now, and I hope we'll see enough transfer to states that they're able to do that. I guess the other challenge that I think the Obama administration faces when it concerns fiscal policy is trying to get households to focus on a longer horizon. Everybody is consumed by the moment, and what I mean by that is, we're seeing a big shift in consumption-saving behavior. Consumers are really pulling back from spending en masse right now. And I understand that a lot of individuals feel the need to rebuild their balance sheets, but I think there are a lot of people who can think about doing that over 5 years or 10 years or 15 years. And believe me, if we all decide we're going to try to do it in 1 year, that's the recipe for the Great Depression. Okay? If consumption as a share of GDP goes from 70% down to 55% in 1 year, it's not going to be pretty. So right now, I think the challenge for the administration is to model responsible behavior, and that is, fine, have a stimulus plan, but then talk about how over a period of 10 years, you're going to really try to get the federal budget back in order and address some of our structural problems. And I think, so a good way to do that to me would be, let's do something difficult while we're doing the easy things. It's easy for government to spend money. They can print money, okay, so they can spend it. It's hard for government to ask sacrifice, and we probably should be thinking about a carbon tax or something like that that will stimulate green energy innovation. We're a very innovative country, but we have not had a high enough energy price environment for that innovation to really materialize. Gas prices go up, oil prices go up for a year, people get all excited about it, now they're back down, there's not going to be any investment there. I think we have to find a way to get to a higher energy price to see real innovation occur in that space, and that could be a great export industry for us. But until the prices signal that, this is really a long-term opportunity, you're not going to see the investment dollars there, and we won't get any traction there. So, and the other thing, it's self-serving for Brian and I to say things like this, but investment in education is certainly another way to both stimulate the economy in the short term. I always say, if you give college students $10, they'll spend the stimulus money. Okay? Believe me, they will. And that's partly because they got a long horizon, and partly because they are the irresponsible consumers we all talk and write about. But no, I think the great thing about investment in human capital is it's portable across industries and occupations, and so giving people a good education is something that will serve the economy well, and it doesn't require government knowing which industry to support. So that's my message for today. I think the stock market has already kind of reached its bottom. I think real GDP will start to turn around mid-year, but it'll take into next year before unemployment starts coming back down again. It's just the nature of the labor market. It takes longer for things to show up there. So hopefully, this time we're coming out of, we will come out of what will be a deep recession, but at least we sort of have a place in this global economy, and nothing about the current situation jeopardizes that. If you ask who is the country breathing down our neck in all of these new technological arenas, when I ask CEOs of technology companies, they just give you a blank stare. There isn't anybody, and that's the place where we still add a lot of value, and we can deploy a lot of that technology to help businesses that are just domestic companies like Menards be better at what they do. So thank you very much. I appreciate your time today, and it's always great to be back in Eau Claire.